as I was digging through my college stuff, I found a very enlightening study that I read. Now, this study was done in 2008, and I just don't know why it never got the attention that it should have. I read this study in my capstone course, and my capstone course was looking at what's called social rigidity. There are certain things, institutional or otherwise, that just get stuck in society. Some of it's good, some of it is not necessarily good. So through those lenses, we looked at many things like gender gap, race. Our professor investigated certain things related to caste in India, so she wrote some papers and stuff on that. It was a really good course. She was a visiting professor, so she just wanted to have fun teaching and discussing. So this graph, do not get intimidated. I will explain to you everything. It's a correlational study, so whenever there's correlation, you have to just know that two things are moving together. It doesn't mean one thing causes another. It just seems to be that when one thing is a certain way, another thing is either going the same way or going the opposite way. That's what correlation means. What this study looked at, it looked at what they call GGG, Gender Gap Index. So certain countries have quite a large gender gap index. Certain countries have quite a small gender gap index. And then this article talked about what they use to measure the GGG. Did I call it GGG? GGI. Sorry, I said GGG. I'm thinking of GOG, the gaming platform. What it also looked at was there's an assessment that a lot of students in Europe take called PISA, P-I-S-A, and it looked at math scores and reading scores. So the top is boys versus girls in their performance on reading and math. The bottom is how, quote unquote, unequal the society is. Now, this is Turkey, Korea, Italy, United States, Portugal, France, Poland, Norway, Sweden, and Iceland. The more close to 1 your GGI is, the more equal the countries are. So no surprise, Norway and Sweden, even in 2008, were very gender equal. Now, Turkey in 2008, in the countries that this study looked at, was the least, quote unquote, gender equal. No surprise there. There is a gender gap when it comes to math. However, through correlation, what the study found was in Norway and Sweden, where the gender gap was really, really low / non-existent. I'm going to use my glasses. The ladies basically caught up in the math gender gap. So as this society was more equal according to their criteria, also correlationally, there was an association of the ladies not having any differences with the guys when it comes to math. Now, what really surprised me about this study, and which is why I wanted to bring this study to you guys, you ask, what is this darker bar right here? This is reading. So even in the most, quote unquote, unequal countries, the women were still scoring higher on average than men in reading. And what it seems to show is as the society got more and more equal when it comes to gender, women started scoring higher and higher and leaving the men more and more behind in reading. So let me summarize this again. When there's a big quote unquote gender gap, as in there's a favoritism towards men, and men seems to be, whether institutionally or culturally, in the dominant role, men score way higher than women in math. However, women still score higher in reading. Once you find a society where men and women generally it's equal, not only do the women catch up to the point where in Iceland they're even scoring higher than the men, but reading wise there is no reverse catch up, as in the men don't catch up their reading scores. If anything, the women score even more high than in societies where there's a higher gender gap. I can think of different ways to interpret this study. One is that obviously men aren't better than women at everything. Women tend to like conversation. Women tend to enjoy certain things. And if you look at the advanced sciences, the STEM fields, it's a lot more skewed towards men. So it's no surprise that If you let things just stay the way they are, men would gravitate towards scoring potentially higher in the math sections of this PISA. Even then, it's just so surprising that once you even out the gender gap in those societies, for lack of a better word, men get left behind in the reading department and they never catch up to the women. In fact, the women just pull the lead even higher. Another analysis could be there's something wrong with how these European countries are potentially reducing the gender gap in a way that they're helping the women succeed, but they're actually leaving the men behind. A third way to analyze this, maybe it's just a test thing. I believe there are studies, and that could be another talk we do, where women are just usually better test takers. That's why higher education, a lot of these institutions that need people to sit down for long hours and take tests, has a skew that favors people whose disposition make them better able to sit down and do stuff. Whatever the interpretation, whatever the case, even in 2008, we were seeing examples and evidence that you have to help everyone. You have to help men too. So let me know what you guys think. Why is it that the more they close the gender gap, correlationally, it seems like women caught up to men in the math department, but women threw men behind in the reading department? What is going on there? And guys, this is a different YouTube now, so try to keep your comments academic. Thank you guys, man. Talk to you guys soon.